Hello, everyone. It's another chance to have on the Press.exe blog network, I guess, at this point, a guest. And the guest is, as ever, always, the one, the only, Doc Destructo. How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing good.
Yeah. So, a while back, I had you on to talk about an episode of G.I. Joe. And I thought that was a really fun, interesting conversation. For anyone who's
Yeah.
for anyone who's
Uh,
paid attention to me on Patreon, you'd know that I'm of the position that Doc is someone really good at taking things seriously that most people think shouldn't be taken seriously without losing sight of what the thing is. So GI Joe, perfect for Doc.
yeah, and that was the GI Joe Christmas episode where things. I just want to describe a plot point or a note that I had that, which is to say that despite it being a Christmas episode, GI Joe tends to escalate in its plots from 0 to 100 faster than a fucking Bugatti.
Yeah, yeah. You will you've in fact touched upon one of the things that I was going to talk about in this recording, which is wow, GI Joe really knows how to pack a half hour, doesn't it? Uh, so
Yeah.
I have a thesis about cartoons of the 1980s as a fan of say Transformers and a couple of other shows from the time, and it's like Gummy Bears even. And I my thesis is this: anytime someone talks about crash commercialized, empty toy ads which just shout "buy me" at kids without any attempt to make something of a show or a story or characters that people can engage with under the hood, they're not talking about the thing they think they're talking about. They're not talking about G.I. Joe. They're not talking about Transformers. Or they're not talking about Brave Star or He-Man. They're talking about Mask. And for that reason, I wanted to get Doc on to talk about this episode, particularly of Mask.
This this is a show that I only knew of, and I had never actually watched an episode of until much later in my life. And it's like I watched a couple of episodes, and it's like, no, this isn't even good for memes. This is just hollow. This this feels bad to look at and take in because it's almost ghoulish how cynical it is in
Mm.
produce something for the kids and then the toy line will be bought quicker.
Yeah, it really is the like platonic ideal of crap media for children by people who don't think children deserve good media.
Mm-hmm.
The when we talk about the Transformers of the 80s, like just as an example, you'll see a list of names of like actual real sci-fi writers' stories who wound up like cutting their teeth on making Transformers episodes. There are about
Yep. And
go on.
I was going to say similar on GI Joe. You will find so many current to the time and future star comic book writers on episodes of that series.
Absolutely. And when I did my reflection on Brave Star, we have writing from the creators talking about how, look, this is what we were trying to do, and we didn't do a good job, but like we were trying to do things like present a person of color as a main character, and we wanted to try
Mm-hmm.
and center the story of a Native American man in a cowboy narrative. And like, don't get me wrong, they did not do a good job with Brave Star, but they tried. Same
They
thing with
were
He-Man.
trying something. Yeah.
Yeah.
He-Man was in a lot of ways it was Calvin Ball bullshit, but the thing is it was full-assed Calvin Ball bullshit to
Yeah.
create almost what it would look like if Warhammer 40,000 were a fairy tale.
Yeah, and like you can look under the hood of He-Man and find out that part of why He-Man went the way it did, and indeed part of the reason why He-Man is a little choppy and the stories occasionally just stop dead is because a lot of the writers were fighting, and you don't fight if you don't care.
Yep.
And then we have Mask, Mobile Armored Strike Command, which is shockingly cynical. Just a breathtaking nothing of a show built around some admittedly very dope toys. But I
I
don't
was I was going to say, like, I looked at the actual toys and they looked genuinely quality,
yeah.
and that's kind of the thing that made me sad because You could have done something with this show and with this property for a show. You didn't have to half-ass it because the people who were making the toys weren't.
To talk in a very primeval under the hood kind of way, the American a lot of Transformers toys were engineered originally in Japan by Takara, and there was a transition with Henrik Orenstein's commission of people coming over and bringing technology and learning how to make these things in America, that they were then being designed there and manufactured back in Japan, and that's how Transformers went through its multiple iterations. G.I. Joe was primarily being made in America and Brazil during a period where oil was at a record low, which meant you could get really experimental with toy design because the raw materials were so cheap. And what was going to happen, you'd wind up making a 6-foot-long aircraft carrier that maybe 5% of your audience could buy. Sure, but like materially, it didn't cost you nearly as much to make as the loss. Mask is the byproduct of people who worked on both Transformers and G.I. Joe, leaving those companies to make a wholly original American-centered property. So, if the toys weren't good, it would be shocking.
Yeah, no, because that's a lot of design and engineering, creativity and ingenuity. It's just so clearly that they didn't have the likes of Larry Hama and the many hands that put together the Transformers lore to do their property, because this is not 1-to-1 on that front.
It really isn't. Like, J. Michael Straczynski as a wee whippersnapper worked on Transformers. Like, yeah. The mind behind Babylon 5. So,
I would just like to say too, regarding the name, my comparison notes here, because this was the theming of my notes, comparing G.I. Joe Mask and what I was seeing here. I have here, G.I. Joe is the code name for America's Special Task Force. Their mission, protect the world from Cobra, an evil terrorist organization that wants to rule the world. And then Mask stands for Mobile Armored Strike Command. Let me tell you, I do not like the word command with a K unless it is Orc Commandos. There's bad connotations there. And also, it is distinct from MASC, or Myomer Accelerator Signal Circuitry, one of the things you can do to make in Battletech to make your Mac go faster.
Yep. And Battletech predates Mask. Mask is a shockingly cynical exercise in media making, to the point where, so do you remember Thundercats? Like, while we're just doing a tour of the 80s. One of my favorite details about Thundercats is that it had its own mask. It had its own knockoff called Silverhawks. Not shared universe, but just, go on.
I know about Silverhawks. I mainly know it because its intro sequence is amazing, to the point that the show could not actually ever hold up to it.
Absolutely. Silverhawks' opening is one of my favorite things about Silverhawks. Silverhawks has an almost a He-Man-like allotment of loser villains, but the most significant thing is, like, amongst these dorks and thieves and backstabbers and just jerks, you have the leader. And this is where Silverhawks transcends itself in the form of just being dumb enough to become charming, because the leader of the villains is called Monstar. He is from the planet Monstar. He is kept on the prison moon of Monstar called Monstar. He absorbs radiation from the sun, the Monstar.
I'm sensing a theme here.
And when he when he absorbs enough of it, he transforms into his special form, the Monstar form. Diagram that sentence.
That is still somehow valid English.
Yeah.
So all is Monstar.
And also, there's a different number of R's in all of those iterations of Monstar.
Oh, good.
And dashes. It's like Mon-Star, who orbits Monstar, double R, no dash.
It's like Big Luke theory.
It's a civilization built around trying to make the hardest possible spelling bee question.
Dude, we're gonna make this phenomenon. It's known as deadly trivia. These
Yeah.
are all names you should not speak in various spelling connotations. And if you say even one of them, he'll hear and come for you.
Can you? Your word is Monstar. Can you use it in a sentence? All right. Monstar is trapped in the prison Monstar on the planet on the moon Monstar around the planet Monstar, being blasted radiation from the Monstar. Okay.
I guess I'll accept that, even though everyone in this room is now dumber, and may God have mercy on your soul.
And in the vein of killer openings, by the way, Mask has an
Mask.
amazing opening. Yeah, you can see how empty Mask is because we're sliding off it like we're a possum trying to pick up a cue ball.
Yeah, no, but the thing is that it's fucking Stan Bush.
Yeah.
Of the Touch fame.
Yes, at the height of his powers.
Yeah, and he does a great job on this show, making you think it's gonna be good.
They lied to us through Stan Bush.
Yeah, no, it's like this is the one thing that Mask can lord over G.I. Joe, because like G.I. Joe has the G.I. Joe hook that ties the whole thing together, but like the lyrics and cadence don't really rhyme all that work worked all that well.
Yeah, it's
Jumbled up.
Look, you've been exposed to
this
Mask.
is
It's
a
okay.
rock-
We're all getting dumber here.
Yeah, no, but like compared to what Stan Bush did, it's like oh my god, this is an actual rock song. I want to know if there's further verses of this.
Yeah, and by the way, there is. He released a full single version of it on an album, which also had Dare
Good.
from the
nice.
Transformers movie. But
Nice.
my point of comparison is that the special edition of the G.I. Joe theme from the movie, which is
Yep.
really quite good, that
Yep.
is probably the best the G.I. Joe theme gets, and it's slightly
Yep.
worse than the Mask theme, which is to damn with faint praise. But the good news is Mask gets called. Go on.
The sequence that accompanies it, the animation sequence that accompanies it, is so badass. I don't even fucking care.
What, Snake Eyes punching a plane to death?
Yes. Scarlet jetpack uppercutting burner.
It takes a lot of courage to fly into a flamethrower.
Yes.
And again, we are just sliding off Mask like it's made of oil.
Well, what are we supposed to do? We open up on this presumably Indian marketplace, and it's just the height of Stereotype Town, and there's no real establishing music except Crowdwalla, and it's like, oh God, this went from 100 to 0, like
It really
breaking
did.
distance on the show. It's incredible.
It really did.
Oh,
It is.
that.
Yeah, I talk about how anime sometimes have openings that the show can never back up. This is the Western version of that.
100%. They slow that shit down.
They do explicitly state it is in India because Matt Tracker is here to sell technology to the Indians to help them build better farms and whatnot as part of his process for greening India in what he calls the Horn of Plenty.
Matt Tracker, hunter of small carpets.
This is especially funny when you know about, well, darkly funny when you remember just what the history of India getting Western technologists to come in and fix things looks like for their farming.
Oh, believe me, I have another note about history of India coming back to haunt the show in very awkward ways further on.
Uh-huh. I'm trying to remember when the Bhopal gas disaster was. Because, like, you know, is Matt Tracker an investor in Union Carbide?
Okay, so first of all, Matt Tracker is the show's version of Duke, and I just gotta say, Matt Tracker is nothing before the real name of Conrad Hauser. Just, you're not beating that name.
I just checked the date. Bhopal was 1 year before this. You had the lead time. You could have gone, maybe let's not make an episode about Westerners coming into India and building tech plants. That seems like an unwise move. But don't worry, they don't do anything with it.
Meanwhile, G.I. Joe has had multiple episodes about environmental disasters being bad.
Uh-huh. We are in a Indian market where we get to see, I guess what I'd
Watch
call
the snake
the more
charmer.
racist parts of Tintin.
Oh yeah, that's a real good way of summarizing it. I was just gonna say fucking snake charmer
Snake
because
charmers.
that's all you really. Yeah, snake charmers plural.
Mm-hmm.
Just we couldn't settle at one. No, we have multiple varieties of poisonous snake.
Snake charmers with various different types of cobras, which have distinct patterns on their back. That'll come up. And a fakir sitting on a bed of nails, which, by the way, that's just a neat magic trick. That's a thing anyone can do. The trick is to know how to do it. And a guy piloting a rope up into the air.
Yeah, and boy did they spend a lot of time on this fucking rope.
On this, nothing happening.
We have slammed both feet on the brakes, and now we have engaged the e-brake, and now the plot is at its standstill while we figure out the mystery of the motherfucking rope.
The continents of this world are moving forward while the actual narrative holds still, so that somehow we are moving backwards.
This shit's in geosynchronous orbited with mirror.
It's so and like in timestamp wise, this is like 4 minutes of the show of them walking around the market, looking at the various things, having a chat about how Indian magic is a thing, and then Scott Tracker, Matt's son, climbing a rope, and then a flute getting away from a snake charmer so that a snake gets away from the snake charmer, and there's an incident of some report, and then hard cut.
So a couple of things here. Number one, this show could not resist the bad executive decision of let's have an annoying kid as the stand-in character for our intended audience because he's gonna want to be the kid, and it's like no, the kid's gonna want to be fucking Michelangelo or Snake Eyes or you know, insert cool character from the actual adult cast, or in the case of the TMNT teenage cast.
A shocking number of people I knew wanted to be Jinx.
Yeah, no, the kids don't want to be like the kid in this scenario that is tagging around with an annoying robot named T-Bob. Doodle Bob.
By the way, T-Bob's toy, again, T-Bob's toy is really nice. It handles really crisp, and it has a transformation sequence that's really quite clever. For such a simple transform, it's like, that's nice. That's satisfying to do. And then the character they attach to this sucks on toast. He is the kid character's kid character.
He is a kid-friendly claptrap. God.
Yeah.
Like, no, and again, his name just makes me think of Doodle Bob, and then I start thinking about a SpongeBob episode that is so much more fucking entertaining than this.
You could find a Zard episode more entertaining than this. Let's not lower that bar.
So, and then this levitating flute to charm a snake away from the crowd, and this is our activate. What the hell is this? What the hell is this?
Well, this is when it's revealed that the snake is part of a theft. They had to steal a snake.
Yeah, no, they couldn't. There was no way they could get to the main plot without heisting a snake first. And I'm just thinking, when Cobra released a chemical agent to make paper money spontaneously combust so they could introduce the world to fucking Cobra coin in the 80s? That was a real evil plot. Cobra was doing crypto back in the 80s. That's real bastard shit.
Just and the thing is, them stealing it. It's when you first had a look at this video to decide to do this with me, you did use the phrase "these budget knockoff dreadnoughts," and there's this scene of
what they are.
4 grown men who ostensibly stole this snake, standing around the snake like it just teleported there, and they're all like, "Ooh, what do we do about this snake?"
4 grown men, collective mental age 34.
This range of characters too, by the way, just they're not even fun bozos. They're just bozos.
Yeah, no, it's General Goon, Goon, and other Goon.
Yeah, one of them, by the way, the guy with the mustache is Sly Rax, and he's effectively the Starscream of Venom. He shows up a lot, and he shows up a lot because his voice actor is a guy called Mark Halloran, who will do anything you need.
Yeah, I was going to up to and including a Jack Nicholson impression for this one particular villain.
Yeah, and Sly Rax shows up in almost every single episode because, well, we've got Mark here, and we need what can Mark do on the budget that's distinctive? Okay, we'll get him to do Sly. He's also the voice of Cliff Dagger, the other guy, the big dumb one.
Yeah, well, I was immediately going to say that. First of all, sorry, what was his name?
Sly Rax.
Sly Rax is the most 2019 rapper name I've ever heard in my fucking life.
I would almost say that Sly Rax is like the only example in this whole show of someone giving a shit, but the problem is he kind of doesn't. Like, you can tell the voice actor doesn't care.
That's like the only interesting name in this like real name. All of these characters like Steve, Brad, and like no offense to people that actually have those names, but it's like those are relatively nominal working class names, and this is a show about people that drive vehicles that transform into other vehicles.
Who all have, if you dig into the supposed lore, these people all have like deeply intense criminal backgrounds or military backgrounds or sometimes both. And like while I'm dumping on the names here, I suppose I might as well also dump on the voice talent. In this episode, if you looked at the credits, you might have noticed that there were 4 voice actors named.
Yep, underpaid Canadians.
Doug Stone, not the country western singer, Graham McKenna, Brendan McCain, and Mark Halloran. And between them, and I swear, so many of these names need to come out in the form of like the MST3K listing of the Space Mutiny alternative names, with Matt Tracker, Bruce Sato, Bruno Shepard, Brad Turner, Alex Sector, Buddy Hawks, Cliff Dagger. Like, they're just...
Bruce Turner is the name of my uncle.
Yeah! Well, and also
Mom's side.
Miles Mayhem is the name of a guy who, like... Miles Mayhem is the name of a guy who, like, got a silver mask and waves his fist at the sky and cackles. Whereas the guy who Miles Mayhem sounds like is your dad's golfing buddy who's still a little mad about having to share custody.
Yeah, he's like, that's a good name, but it's just, you put it on a gray-haired general. You put it on a dyspeptic gray-haired general.
Yeah, this is a guy who absolutely has yelled at his subordinates about losing his foot pills.
Yeah, no, I feel nothing for this cadre of villain but contempt. Snake Eyes would be picking these dudes out of his teeth for weeks.
You ready to move on to the first of, I guess I wouldn't do that kind of moments?
Yeah, please.
All right.
Do the show.
So while riding along, you get this amazing shot of
T-Bob in the turban.
Don't. I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. I really wouldn't. And like, this show is already, like, in terms of racial sensitivity, this show is, again, like, we tried something, but maybe we shouldn't have. For example, Bruce Sato here is a Japanese American hero. That's kind of cool. It's nice that they had the idea of let's put a major character as an Asian American right front and center. On the other hand, he's voiced by Doug Stone.
And he speaks like Charlie Chan.
Yeah.
In riddles.
Yeah, he's voiced by the same... Matt Tracker and Bruce Sato having a conversation is Doug Stone talking to himself between my normal speaking voice and a racist stereotype I'm not going to try to impersonate.
No, it's for what's it's like the best way I have to describe it is imagine bad 90s Mortal Kombat ripoff fighting game action.
Yeah. Imagine the moment where we're going, well, look, Mortal Kombat is a pretty decent place to start, and then going, the people who did a worse job.
Yes.
Because again, someone gave a shit about Mortal Kombat. Unbelievably, someone gave a shit.
And similarly on G.I. Joe, you know why they have, like, again, you can go back into G.I. Joe and point out stuff that they wasn't cool, not cool by today's standards, but it avoided a lot of stuff like this because its characters were written by a Japanese American who had experienced racism firsthand, both in comic book writing and the U.S. military.
Yeah. It is these many ways in which you get to see the effect of this level of cynicism. People made Mask because Mask needed to get made. People making G.I. Joe went, what writers have we got on hand? Hey, do you think you could work on this? Get to work. And that's why you have these, like, details just subtly woven. Like, remember, we had an episode in which we had a character extensively talk about protracted trauma around Christmas and how his dealing with it was to isolate himself. They're not going to do that in Mask.
No. Like one of the things that sold me on G.I. Joe when I discovered it later in my life was the episode Nightmare Assault, that was literally about childhood PTSD and dealing with it as an adult.
Yeah.
Like, holy hell, what a topic to put in a kids show.
So at this point in the narrative, Mask is traveling towards maybe finding the thing.
Yeah, maybe. They might also be going to investigate a rope for like 5 minutes.
Yep.
And T-Bob is gonna try to blow a flute and make the rope go up. And surprise, the thing that made the rope go up was like a pneumatic air pump beneath the mat. They didn't think to look beneath the mat.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Scott Tracker climbed that rope earlier in the episode. I call bullshit.
No, from this we can extrapolate that Scott Tracker is not only the whitest boy alive, but also the skinniest white boy alive.
Yeah.
Scott Tracker is wearing shoes to keep himself from blowing away.
Battery's hollow as the rest of the show.
Oh dear God. It's a really it's an interesting thing because it's mostly this opening, and now we're almost at like 9 minutes of a 22-minute episode. It is mostly two groups going in their own directions, not intersecting with each other at all. So all the stuff you have expecting to have tension happen isn't happening. And then suddenly a tire bursts.
Yep. And our first major action of the episode. I'm not even gonna count the snake being stolen, because fuck that. No, a tire on a high-tech semi truck blows out and lands in a firewalking pit.
Yep.
Wow.
What? Yeah, and if they don't deal with it quickly, it will blow up the truck because of its unstable fuel.
If this was a G.I. Joe episode, there would have been 3 firefights. Duke would have headbutted a guy.
You would have seen the dog.
Yeah, no, Mutt, or at least Mutt or Timber would have mauled somebody.
Yeah. This is at 10:50, so they have effectively, in the same vein of, hey, maybe if I rearrange all the stuff on my desk, it'll be closer to home time kind of moment. They did that for a 10-minute stretch of an episode.
And then finally we get the threat of a truck exploding.
Mm-hmm. And then fade. Ad break moment. So this is the thing that he's going to do to try and make sure that you, kid, stay tuned and pay attention through, at the time, what was honestly like a fairly tolerable 3 minutes of ads. I understand that like it's 6 minutes of ads these days. Terrible. So you think, okay, they set up a drama. Okay, what's going to happen when they get back? How long is it going to take them to solve this?
Put the fucking mask on and he's going to use tape. And he's going to look like they use tape.
Woo! Oh dear, Doc, you got munched by robots there. One more time.
Oh, sorry. No, he's gonna. Well, he's the Bruce. First of all, I was gonna say Bruce Echo puts his mask on. No, Tracker tells Bruce
Yeah.
put his mask on, and use levitate like a fucking Pokemon trainer.
Yep. Yep. This is because his special lifter helmet, and by the way, Bruce's codename is Magic. Ugh.
I'm all right with that. There was a Jag Alliance merc named Magic.
It
I
just
don't mind
feels.
that.
I don't know. I watched Big Trouble in Little China this week. I'm very sensitive about how
Oh,
yeah, we can do a much
maybe.
better job. Not that I'm holding him to that standard.
Look, they could have named him Shogun, okay?
Yeah, good point. Whew. So with that out of the way, with the truck now righted, and by the way, they just press a button and it repairs the wheel itself. Great job.
No, they just swap the axle out. No big deal.
The villains...
Self-repairing semi-truck.
Yeah, the villains have successfully got all the way to their the actual like domain, the throne of kings that they're after.
Sorry. Can I just interject before we get to this point? Hi, Ellie. Can I? There is about 30 seconds of awkward crowd reaction.
Yeah.
After they right the truck,
There's a whole bunch of people deeply invested.
It is the most and I was very glad it happened.
Yeah.
In an essay I've ever seen. Just holding on this shot of randos making pleased. Oh, I'm glad the semi truck didn't explode noises.
Writing your name at the top of the page so big. Because that's the other thing. There's so much of this show is filling. It's sawdust.
Yeah, which as we get towards this throne of darkness, we'll get the next major instance of that, because these doofuses, these collective doofi, open this underground tomb and waltz in and immediately start thinking, look at all this stuff that the British Empire hasn't pillaged yet.
And to be fair, I would just like to say, for the artists, like the line artists doing this stuff, they didn't do a terrible job of drawing a bunch of authentic looking but not like traced art of the Indian subcontinent period. I mean,
It's pretty good looking.
And showing the villain stealing it. That's good. This stuff should not be stolen. It should be left where it is. This guy stealing it is a bad guy. Perfectly good, reasonable, moral through line there. Not something that, say, again, the British Empire was able to manage, but
Yeah, no, he is at a standard for villainy here.
Yeah.
It's how I will phrase it.
He manages to reach the level of Belloc from the first Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just not very earth-shattering stakes right now, because I'm not like, the main thing that I'm feeling right is that he's going to take a bunch of very valuable cultural artifacts away from this, and that is realistically horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But how is this powering his weather dominator?
Yeah. What's his plan? His plan is to have money. But also, this guy has a personal helicopter that transforms into a personal jet. I'm not sure money is his problem.
Like you've got these beautiful platinum figures. How do these power your orbital space laser?
Can I point out something that has no consequence whatsoever, and I would almost use as an example of someone giving a shit if it made any sense at all?
Mm-hmm.
Please observe, in the pit of bones around and lava around the throne, that's a fucking dinosaur skull. Why is there a dinosaur skull?
We found the person who was having fun on this production, and it was the background artist.
That was one of the things that you could, again, to slide off mask for a moment, in the Transformers movie. If you just look at the production backgrounds, the watercolored acid trip ass backgrounds, they're like, someone going, well, if Roger Dean did show up at work today, I'd want to impress him, right? Like, those look so good.
Mm-hmm.
I've been told to keep the dog barking in by fans, apparently, so just going to mute that subtly. Yeah, so
the
lava throne.
Yeah, or charitably, maybe a rhino, but like as the episode tells us later, there ain't no rhinos in India, so like maybe this
Yeah,
is the pit where they all fell into.
yeah. The we also got, and we kind of glossed over it because it's so fucking inconsequential. We also got the moment that like Mask episodes were kind of built around, which is like, and if you watch the early parts of the show, what you would have is usually in the first 7 minutes, like before the ad break, you'd have a moment where Tracker would be like, "Oh, okay, I need to get a team together. So computer, select me for me the mask agents who are appropriate for this mission and in position to be deployed." And you'd get these really cool little vignettes of the character doing their normal everyday life and then getting the call to come to mask and bolting. And that would sometimes be funny, but more often than not, they were kind of horrifying.
Yeah, no, there's one where the dude is just a jerk and blows up a guy.
Yes.
He blows up his RV.
Yeah. So this episode has like one of the better examples in that you've got drummer man, I've forgotten his name, rock starring it up on his drums. He throws the stick in the air to do a cool flourish, gets the mask call, and he's out the door before the stick lands. Good, perfect,
Yeah, on the hi-hat.
no notes.
Actual good.
Yep.
Actual good.
And
And
then
then you get the guy who is such a baffling combination of traits to me, who is supposed to be an intel expert,
and
but he
a
drives
master of
monster truck?
disguise. He's a
And a master of disguise. But he drives a monster truck.
And
he drives a monster truck. What you think? You'd think he would drive some sort of a sleek supercar or like a Testarossa,
or even something
No.
unobtrusive.
He's driving fucking Grave Digger.
And like as an actual character design, he looks like something from an 1880s police procedural notebook of like how to identify the dangerous Mick.
Yes.
Master of disguise. He could blend in to North Boston and South Boston.
He does not appear out of place in any sort of famine.
Well, he isn't coming to India then, so.
God, Jesus.
The white people have brought famine.
Especially after you Carbide got there. Oh, he's like,
Whoop, the robots have got you.
Oh, yeah, robots got me. Well,
Go for it.
His entire character design, look out, he's Irish.
Yeah, it's and like that moment happened, and what we got are two people, and don't worry, they won't show up until I checked the last 6 minutes of the story.
Yeah, and there's a thing here that is like, I hate the island, right? I don't hate the island, but the problem is that I have with it is that in the 80s, when we're doing stuff like weird science, where computers can just do anything, right? We're in the period where we were just trusting computers to do everything, and nowadays, I know this team assembled by algorithm is so cold and horrifying to me that I just sort of seize up at the thought, and it just made me think about how much G.I. Joes are frequently shown either in media res in another unrelated adventure, but when the call to action happens, or they're just hanging out being friends or in rivalry positions so we can get some minor character development before the call to action happens. And then, but like, we get nothing from these characters.
Nothing.
Like we get the little vignette, and those are nice. Those are appreciated when they're done well, and the characters are shown as being, people that you would respect, and not people that blow up old men in their RVs.
One of my favorite terrible ones is Megabyte, Alex Sector, the beardy guy in this one. Because he's already there, he doesn't get his little sequence. But in the first episode, his sequence where he gets picked up, he's in a pet store. Like, he's meant to be a vet. And there's a sequence where he's feeding an enormous boa constrictor style snake. And next to it, in the next pen, there's a dog. And he gets the call, and he immediately turns and just hands the stuff he's working with to a little girl, and then leaves with the boa constrictor door open. And like, that's Mask.
Yeah, that child got eaten. The snake didn't even want the dog when it saw the little... Ellie's trying to get revenge on that.
Yeah. Ellie did not like this talk about a boa constrictor being left unattended. So yeah, you have this dinosaur skull, and then they have to try and get inside they have to use computers to scan the building to try and find a way inside. At which point we get one of the. I actually wrote some lines of dialogue down from this show. That just a testament to how bad dialogue can get in this game. Sorry, in this piece, all right? Because when inspecting the temple where they think that the venom have gotten into, they look at it,
woof.
And Bruce, the wise and erudite mystic Japanese American man, delivers the ice cream koan of "A house has many doors." Okay. Okay.
I miss Quick Kick.
Yeah.
so much better Japanese American character.
And like that's meant and like Matt Tracker's like, you're right. It's like, what the fuck? This is the most useless thing to have said.
That was really wise there, Bruce. Thanks for the input.
Anyway, so they go through the same door Venom went through, so they went through one door.
Yeah, no, and meanwhile, like I was gonna say that before that, like we had the bones and lava, and then we also had Dagger walking across it for 5 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
To no music.
Uh-huh.
Walks over it, picks up the throne, walks back, and Miles Mayhem then decides, I'm just gonna sit in this shit. Scene over.
Don't worry. No, that's not fair. That's not fair. You're also forgetting that he slips and almost falls on the bridge, and there's a sequence of all the other characters coming over and getting the thing off the bridge. Dun-dun, dun-dun. You know that thing that a hero normally does, and there's tension because you want the hero to succeed? But in this case, they chose not only a villain, but one of the most disposable villains?
There is just more padding in the gutters than a game. There's just more padding in this episode than the gutters in a game of laser bowling. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it is a shockingly empty episode. Anyway, so they get in, and after they get in, then our 2 ringers arrive. I believe their names are Brad and...
Brad is one of them, because it shocked me that they just would... Brad.
Yeah, Brad.
Sorry to any Brads out there, but like, Brad is a name that works better in real life than it does in over-the-top fictional media. It just sounds out of place in a place where the cars transform into other vehicles.
And his friend Buddy.
Brad and Buddy.
Brad and Buddy. That's a gay porno title.
Little boys. And I'd start singing the theme to Dukes of Hazzard.
Well, look, I'm sure there's gay porn themed Dukes of Hazzard videos out there. That is
undeniably.
And if they're not, you need to pick that up. Someone out there needs to get on that, because that seems obvious to me. So
it would only make the wrongest people in the world very angry.
So we finally have Mask and Venom in the same proximity to interact with each other. And what immediately happens is one of Venom fires a thing that means that they're suddenly cut off from one another, so they can't interact.
No. We're just avoiding having a coherent plot at all costs now.
We got to make sure we don't show anything that might overstimulate the kids.
No, we don't want to have action in this children's show.
Also, the masks available, they're all just guns, right? Like, Lifter is the only one that isn't just a gun.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, what would you expect Dagger's mask to fire? Oh, it's a flamethrower.
Yeah, it's a flamethrower. Well, he can't shoot daggers because that's what Sly Rax's one shoots. Because Sly Rax he's got the mask Stiletto. But don't worry, you know how Cliff Dagger, that big hulking dude with the beret and the eye patch, his call sign is Blaster, and Sly Rax's is Wrecker. Do a second draft, please.
Can we please get some coherency to the theming here?
Sly Rax shoots knives out of his mask called Stiletto, while Cliff Dagger uses a flamethrower.
Yeah, and Troll 2 is a film where there are no trolls and only goblins.
So, right. Okay, we now have 4 minutes left of this episode. 4 minutes in which Mask have successfully entered the temple. They've had their encounter. They've split up. They've gotten out and they've gotten into their vehicles. So now it's time for a vehicle throwdown.
It's so I'm going to say that this is actually where definitely the money was spent on this
Yeah.
episode in terms of animation.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, I'm looking right there. Look, the background artist
Again.
clearly had gratifying work.
Mm-hmm.
But like, here's the thing. This is the height of the animation in this episode, and it's not that great. But like, then again, neither was the animation in GI Joe. But the thing about GI Joe's animation is that it had a coherency and a sense of place that this lacks to such a degree. This action sequence is filmed in Confusovision.
Yeah. We could talk about things like line of action. We could talk about things like coherent positioning in a fight scene, but it doesn't matter because like to talk about these principles would be more than this scene deserves because this scene just doesn't do them. It's just close-ups on chunks of vehicles or long shots of vehicles kind of moving around one another.
Yeah,
Like
they maneuver with no relation to one another whatsoever. You can't tell where they come from. You can't tell where they're going.
And this is the last 4 minutes of the episode, and there's also going to be a bit of padding at the end, so like, So much of this episode is just dicking around the house, but don't worry, I did also have time to write down another truly terrible line of dialogue. And they talk to each other. These people talk to each other, by the way, in vehicles with roaring engines moving at high speed. They talk to each other like they're in the same room. So, kids' cartoons, it's fine, but it's still funny.
So I will expand my umbrella of belief saying that they are speaking into their masks on open comms.
Yeah, that's fine.
They are talking trash like mech warriors.
Which is why Max Mayhem got to hear Brad say, "Know what I love to do, Venom? Fly like a daredevil."
You can't just have characters say what they think and feel. That makes me angry.
It's such an amateurish line. It's so rudimentary. It practically has the brackets around it of like, replace this with something better, right? Like someone can come up with a better version of this, right? Anyone in this writer's room can improve here.
Yes, it could be. When I'm out flying, you know what I like to do? This, and then he just flies straight up a tree and endors Miles Mayhem into it.
Yeah.
But no, we don't get anything like that.
By the way, in the frame, I tried to capture one of the frames where you could see both Brad and I can't remember the name of Mayhem's vehicle, but whatever. Capture them both in the shot, and they are both in that shot. It's just Brad looks like a knothole on a tree.
Yeah.
By the way, this is how helicopters fly all the time. Under the tree line.
Yes, those trees are enormous.
They're so big.
They're on Kashyyyk.
Fucking sequoia-ass trees. But I guess that fits with the dinosaurs.
Yes. This huge primordial. Wow, Mask's plan to green India is really working.
All right. Like if they're creating some sort of lost world, I might be down for this plan.
They're turning it into a mech warrior terraformed planet.
And this is why we know that once again, Mask and MechWarrior happened in the same universe, and that's because everyone in MechWarrior is embarrassed about Mask and refuses to acknowledge it.
Okay, so speaking of dumb cartoons, because we're at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Mask wins the day. There is a bad line that they all laugh at, and we will. Oh yes, and T-Bob sits in the throne of darkness, his rightful place as the king of all evil.
And then there's this.
Yeah, we get a knowing is half the battle. I'll go into that, but I just wanted to say regarding, because I've talked about BattleTech and you just
Yeah.
looped in.
I just activated your trap card.
Is Mask. So yeah, you activated my trap card. I am going to bring up one of the greatest. So BattleTech had a cartoon, and it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those. Wow, they made a children's cartoon about this property. The war crime one setting where conflicts are measured in gigadeaths. Like you made a children's cartoon about that. Yes, they did. Um,
At last
and
check,
it
it,
was
it
pretty
has one of
bad.
the earliest major characters who is canonically meant to be a lesbian at last check, right? Like there's like a gay character. They
Yes.
never say anything, they never show anything, but like there's a character who's like, yep, read the novels, she's gay.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing about the cartoon, right? It was panned, despite getting like I believe it actually got a second season. It might not have. It might have just been a long first season. But here is the thing about the BattleTech cartoon with regards to the canon. The events of it are itself are not canon, but in the BattleTech setting, it is canon that was a propaganda cartoon broadcast by a federated commonwealth broadcasting company to raise war funds through a toy line. And the main character of the cartoon, his quote unquote real life version in the BattleTech universe, his opinion on it was basically boils down to, my God, this was stupid, but it made us so much money.
It's the 80s. Do a lot of coke and vote for Ronald Reagan.
Oh, this was the 90s. This
Oh,
had this had proto 3D animation that was actually made by the dev team that made Mech Warrior.
oh man, that's incredible. All right, so
If you want to talk about that one, we could talk about that one, but we should probably talk about how this show tried its own knowing is half the battle. Cuz so you know the thing about knowing is half the battle, where they managed to do this responsible thing where they very quickly show a safety hazard, the common safety hazard or common sense thing that kids need to know about, and they show
or something that's
uh
uncommon enough that they wouldn't have already picked it up. Like the whole fridge in a
yeah,
fridge in a junkyard. Like that's not going to come up for a lot of kids, but it's going to come up for
yeah,
enough kids that it's actually a really good point.
yeah, and so one of the things that, like, I appreciate that they spent just at the end of this cartoon that was a very heady bombastic rush that was made to sell this enormous toy line, devoted 30 seconds of infotainment where the adult characters of the show can take a mentoring voice to children and explain why you shouldn't do that, and up to and including showing kid friendly consequences of bad decision making.
Yeah.
I appreciate that Mask tried this. It
Did
took
it
about
try
three
though?
more time.
Did it try?
Well. So here's the thing. It took about three times as much time.
Uh huh.
Took about a minute and a half,
Yep. Out of their 22
and
minute runtime.
it was spent mostly dicking around. It was about why you shouldn't climb trees, which bullshit.
Yeah.
Kids need to climb trees, but also it is solved by the child in question thinking, "Oh yeah, I shouldn't climb a tree," and then getting down.
Yeah.
Like Alpine didn't scale the tree to show him that, hey, this tree is rotten and it's about to fall over, and then as Alpine swings away with the kid, the tree falls over.
Yeah.
Like that would have been better.
This is about 5% of the runtime spent on dick nothing. I've seen Christian media with more teeth.
I'm gonna climb a tree. Oh wait, I'm not gonna climb a tree. The end.
Yeah. And that is this episode. That is The Gate of Darkness, Season 1, Episode 63. It's notable for also being the final appearance in the entire Mask series of the Rhino, because they had other toys to sell, obviously. Now, Doc, now that you've endured this quite miserable cartoon for my sake, do you know why I wanted you to watch this episode in particular?
Um, because it's the polar opposite of what we watched for the G.I. Joe Christmas episode?
You are, in fact, so very correct. This episode aired on Christmas Day 1985.
Oh my god! Yeah, some coal in their stockings.
In terms of just didn't give a shit. No one checked the schedule. It was like, this is going to air on Christmas Day. Do we want to do anything with that? Do we want to have a Christmas Day episode for any reason? We're making 65 episodes for the first season.
We have a really boring and meandering episode where India gets pillaged by the bad guys, and then we have an incoherent fight scene at the end. It's a Christmas episode.
I have sneakily smuggled you onto my Christmas schedule once again.
It's an incredibly English gentry Christmas.
Thank you so much for coming along with me on this terrible, terrible excursion.
No problem.
If I do this to you again, I'll at least let you know ahead of time that, yeah, it's probably meant to be a Christmas episode. And if people wanted to find Doc around the internet, where would they find Doc content?
Let's see here. You can find me at patreon.com/ unless I have... Man, I am so bad at the Patreon thing.
It's
I never
Doc_is_human.
Human. Thank
Yes.
you. You know better than me.
Well, where do you think I got this wonderful icon for you?
Yes, exactly. Doc_is_human. And it's the place where you can find my writing and my video work.
Yes, Doc is a TTRPG designer, science fiction author, and media critic. And like the thing is, when I try and describe what Doc presents and what Doc puts forward, it can be very challenging to make it not sound like I dreamt Doc up, because it's like classic cartoons, sci-fi movies, the VHS era, when like movies were being pumped out so fast. Yep. Because, you know, if you got some rental, you got some rental. And
also disaster combat sports and pro wrestling matches.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. Next time, I'm going to make you watch that episode of I'm Actually About Wrestling. We'll do that.
Yes. In case anybody has some morbid curiosity, I did a video about a boxer that literally could not stop punching people low, and how he met his unfortunate end at the hands of my favorite boxer, Lennox Lewis, who proceeded to beat him so senseless he could not throw a nut punch.
That's one of the things I love about your work, just the relentlessly good use of sound effects, because I can still remember the sequence of various different honking noises on that one.
It's always funny.
Always funny. And that's the episode. And now we do the fade. Look at that. Ain't that fancy?
Yep.
Bye, everyone.